I'm live. Hey everybody, I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you might just be on the lifeboat. We're going to find out here in a second. So I got to get out of this stream here and try this again. So, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Let's see what we're doing here. So, this is perfect timing. I mean, people, you could not have had more perfect timing if you tried. The light is awful. I don't know what's going on with the light here. Let's see something. That's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. All right, this is me. So, let's do this here. All right, peeps. So, you know what's really funny? Is that I actually had a different topic that was going to be done for today. We're going to be talking about some chemicals that you can buy in places that you probably shouldn't be able to buy them. And it was a more sort of a larger version of a show that we had already done on such matters. And I was getting ready to roll it, and some things happened that got me to change the subject matter, for lack of a better way to put it. First of all, I'm having some issues with the big red button. And you guys probably were on an earlier show that just went off. And the internet has been dropping things left and right. Franklin, congratulations, bud. That's fantastic. 16 days, people. Huh? How good is that? Franklin, that's awesome, man. That really is. So I've been sharing with everybody, kind of the things that have been going on. I told you the story. I mail out a watch that's very expensive. And this isn't personal. This is you watch. This comes full circle. Because this is, John, thank you for the email, man. It meant a lot to me. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate that. So I get this, I find out that they lost a watch that's worth more than $10,000. And once this thing had crossed into Ohio airspace, so to speak, I purchased some watches based on the fact that this had sold and it was a lot of profit in that. So I spent money that I didn't quite have yet. Bad move. That's on me. That's a bad move. But Scooby, good to see you. So regardless, what ends up happening is I've got to come up with the money. And I filed to find out what's up because the watch is lost 3 to 6 months before they're going to reimburse you for this. So I had to come up with some money, which meant going and selling some watches I'm not losing, but I'm certainly losing a lot of money I could have made, right? I'm selling the profit off, basically, and I'm selling them for very near what I paid for them, which is never what you're trying to do, right? Hello, Trish. Good to see you. That's bad business. You don't want to buy something for $100 and sell it for $100, right? Or $105. It just doesn't, it's not going to keep you in business. So I run around, I drive to Carson City yesterday, and I sold some gold that I had. And then today I drove to Fernley, and I sold a Rolex at about a $1,500 off of what it should have been sold for. Then I come back from that. And the Amazon business model. Amazon did that in the beginning. Bought a book for $5 and sold it for $4. I don't have that luxury. So I come back from selling this watch for a little less than I wanted to sell it for, which is fine. Got the money in the account, cover all the things that I have to cover. And then I got a package in the mail. This is the package that came in the mail. That, people, is a Rolex day date, 18 karat gold, with diamonds on the dial. Very much not lost. Very much in my hand. Now, I am going to do the honest thing and contact the people and tell them that, hey, the watch is not lost. I don't want to report that it's lost. I don't want to file anything on it. This is bad communication. Now, this could be the people to the platform that I sell on that starts with an E and ends with a Y, and I'm not going to say their name on here. It could be them. That this definitely could be a problem with what they were doing. It could be a problem with the United States Postal Service. Honestly, at this point, I don't know exactly what is happening. But in the exchange, I flushed thousands of dollars down the toilet. right? And which is just part of the game. And it is what it is. It's not going to put me out of business or anything of that nature. It's painful. I'm not going to lie to you. It's painful. And I find myself sitting there and going, all right, whose fault is it? Right? Is this the platform's fault, the seller's fault? Is this the United States Postal Service's fault? Whose fault is this? Because I need to know, right? I want to know who to blame because that's important to me, right? I got to know who to blame. I had a video that was going a little while ago. The video's gone right in the middle of it. That video was almost 1 hour long. I spent an hour sitting in front of the camera filming that. A lot of stuff from the heart. There was some really heavy stuff in there. And I was shouting out to the people on the crew and thanking especially the members because your money saved a 17-year-old girl from a really bad fate. And I'm blown away at how kind all of you are. I really am. But it's been 4 or 5 days of one thing after another kind of going wrong. So here's this watch in my hand. Am I happy to have it back? You betcha. You betcha I am. It's going to breathe life back into my business because now I can sell this thing and it's worth a ton of money. I didn't want that money to be tied up for 3 to 6 months. I don't intend to sit on the watch that long. So that's great, right? That's great. But all of these things come back to a common denominator. And the common denominator is, whose fault is this? Why did this video that I spent an hour working on, disappear? And here's the funny thing, people. Because of how the camera works, and creators can relate to this, because of how the camera works, you end up burning up a lot of memory. So if you got an hour video and it's uploaded and it's good and it's ready to roll, you delete it, right? So this thing is deleted. So the video that I did to reach out and talk to you people about something, that's lost. Whose fault is this? Now, very well could be mine. I'm not very good at technical stuff. But I figure once something's rolling, you're probably in pretty good shape, right? Back to the watch. This is not my fault. Most assuredly, has nothing to do with me. I did everything right. I insured the package. I mailed the package. I did everything the way I was supposed to do it. So whose fault is it? Does it matter? Because I got news for you. It doesn't. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't make a bit of difference one way or the other whose fault this is. No matter how you look at it, the watch that I sold at a loss today, it's gone. I'm not getting it back. So it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Whether it's my fault, their fault, whose fault. We spend a lot of time and a lot of effort in our life dedicated to this whose fault is it stuff. This is something that I think most human beings concentrate on a lot. I certainly seem to. Maybe you guys are better than that. I'm not good at it. I spend a lot of time wanting to put blame on the party that wronged me in one way or another. Am I getting comments from everybody here? Let's see something. Do we have any non-members commenting? Yeah, there we go. So, because I just want to make sure I'm not locking anybody out because the big red button is doing some unusual things. Whose fault is this? I get angry. I really do. And I say things that cause ripples in the wrong direction. And I'm not, I got to tighten up my game in terms of the fault thing. I really do. So I started thinking about it. And whether we're taking responsibility for something, let's say that we're talking about a relapse, right? Since we're a channel that this is what we deal with, let's bring it back to something that is going to make sense to everybody. Let's say we're talking about relapse. You end up going out and getting high, or you end up going out and drinking. And the following day, the realization that you stumbled and you fell, that realization sinks in. And I deal with this every single day. I talk to you people every time somebody relapses. It's a conversation I have, right? So you relapsed. Okay, let's dust yourself off. Let's get up and do it again. It's a part of recovery. It is. There's no getting around it. So let's talk about what caused it. Because if you can figure out what caused it, then it's a good relapse. There are such things. There are great relapses. Your last relapse is an epic relapse because you figured out exactly what the problem was and you made sure that it isn't going to happen again. That's great. Nothing wrong with that relapse. It's the wasted relapses, the ones where we do them 30 or 40 times or for 30 or 40 years. Those are bad relapses. So I talk to people and I go, well, what do you think caused this? My wife started to blah, 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 blah. I was doing really well, and then this guy in traffic did this. Right? Because we want to put fault on it. Right? We have to figure out whose fault this is. Summer, so good to see you. I love it when Summer's here. I'm glad you're here, Summer. So whose fault is it? We don't, there's something to taking responsibility for your actions. I preach that, right? It's important to own your mistakes. However, that can be dangerous too. And here's why. Name a positive emotion you've ever had on your time on this planet from putting blame on somebody. Finding out who's at fault. When has it ever been a good thing? Now, you can say, well, I had to figure out who was at fault, or, there was legal proceedings that came. Okay, I get you. All right, that's legit. But these are things that are outside the realm of sobriety and us, right? I'm talking about for feelings and things of that nature. When has anything positive happened? Because I got news for you. Fault and the assigning of fault to somebody is going to generate a negative emotion 100 out of 100 times. Why did you relapse? Well, it was my wife's fault. Okay? That's anger, right? Anger's not a good one. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? Those are no good. And I've always said it's G-halt, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You got to throw guilt in on that. Do you not? You have to. Because guilt is huge. Do you know what guilt is? Guilt is when you put the blame on yourself, right? It's my fault. I'm at fault, right? Why did you stumble? I stumbled because it's my fault. Because I'm stupid and I'm worthless and no bueno. Now you're going down a really ugly road. The idea on a good relapse is you go back and you grab that notebook that please start writing in. And you start reading through the things that you're writing, right? I shared on yesterday's video that my head hasn't been in a good place. A lot of it, I'm not going to lie to you. Here's a little blame right here, right? But that's on me. This is the 5%, right? This is 5%. People, we have zero control over 5%. There's nothing we can do about it. This is teeny. This isn't a death. It's a wristwatch. It's a damn nice wristwatch. It's an expensive wristwatch, and I got a lot of money tied up into it, but it's a wristwatch. And it caused me to have a 3-day meltdown. And now I get the thing in the mail, and the first thing I do is melt down. I had come to the realization that this was lost, right? I wrote it off. It's gone. I'm going to have to wait 90 to 180 days to get my money. So I better get hustling. I better get out there. I better sling some watches. I better make some stuff happen because I got bills I got to pay. And you know what? When I was in that mode, it wasn't such a bad thing. It really wasn't. My head was not in a great place, but it was not such a bad thing because I got busy. And when you're busy, you're not thinking of other stuff, right? But then this thing comes in the mail. And my first thought is those SO people, right? Those sons of mothers. These people caused this. You know what? The E-platform is the worst in the world. I'm never selling a watch over this much money on that platform ever again. Blah, 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 blah. And I went right into it. Then I put up my video, and I'm in the chat, and I said, you know what? This was supposed to not go out the way that it did, right? But the big red button sucks. And I gritted my teeth when I typed it, I promise you. And Monk's pretty new to the boat, but Monk's slick. Seriously, he's a guy that's paying attention. Because, and he was nice. Don't take this wrong. He was very nice, and he was very respectful. But he said, be nice, Captain. And I know he was kidding. But you know what? I wasn't being nice. And it certainly wasn't a ripple in the right direction. And was the big red button screwing up? Yeah, their new beta test stuff is awful. It really is. If you're a creator, you probably know what I'm talking about. They're beta testing some stuff on this new platform. And is it great? It is not. But I better get good at it. Because this is what I do to help people. It could be their fault the first time. And you know what that's called? If it's their fault, 5%. It's 5%. It's a video that gets turned off. It's a watch that gets lost. It's not a death. It's 5%. And if it's a death, my heart goes out to you. But it's still 5%. And I'm not saying that a death is not major. It's the most major event in the entire world. On a scale of 1 to 10, that watch is a 1. A death is a 10. Right? It's huge. But it's still 5%. And what I mean by that is that 100% of your life it worked out into an equation of 5% is what happens to you. You can't control it. It's going to happen or it's not going to happen. And there's not a darn thing you can do about it. The 95% is the part that it doesn't matter what goes on, that's on you. That's your ability to react to what happened. It's your ability to make something good out of what happened. Out of the worst situations in the whole world, there have been some amazing things that happened. You guys know who Adam Walsh was? He was a little boy who got kidnapped from a shopping mall. And then horrendous things happened to him in the last few minutes that he was alive. Awful. As bad a story as it gets. And the evil person that did it trolled the guy's father. Wrote him horrendous letters that just nobody in the world should ever have had to endure. That's 5% of hell. The guy told him how much he enjoyed the last few minutes that the kid was alive. It's 5% hell. And any single parent in the world wouldn't be blamed if they dove into a bottle of gin and never came out. For real. But that's not what John Walsh did. John Walsh said, I'm going to get a bunch of people off the street so that they can't do things like this again. He started the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Holy hell. You want to talk about ripples? This guy took the worst experience that could happen to a human being on this planet, and he's taken thousands of dirtbags off the street. He has reunited parents with kids. He's done things with the worst 5% anybody could be dealt in a hand in their life. And he made something epic out of it. Now, I don't know that I'm made of that. I'll be really honest. I don't know that I'm made of that. I don't know that too many people are made of that. But there are people out there today who are going to lose kids and they're going to do something about it. It might not be to the extent, but it's better than diving in a bottle of gin. And that 95%, that does fall squarely on us. So what happens when it's your fault? What happens when you relapse and you realize that it's your fault? Or I'll give you another example. You wake up on your 4th day of dope sick in a jail cell waiting to go to federal prison for bank robbery. That's on you. There's no getting away from that. There's not a soul on the planet that can take any responsibility for that except that person. I got really good for a really long period of time of blaming other people. It wasn't my fault I was there. Somebody told on me. It was that person's fault. Hell, you can't put that on me, man. Somebody told on me. I never would have got caught. I was good. I did it right. I never would have got caught. That's really awful thinking. When I accepted it, I started to grow. Didn't grow in a good direction, I promise you. I wanted to get high and forget about the guilt of how bad I had destroyed my life. And the lives of people I loved. My family, they were all doing time with me. Every single one of them was right there with me doing time. And that guilt was overwhelming. You know what set me free? Aside from Q, which is painfully obvious. But do you know what set me free? The realization that, you know what was to blame? A disease. And if you don't like that concept, people, I'm sorry. But it's a fact. It is a disease. No one has ever sat in a prison cell. No one has ever sat anywhere and said, I am such a loser. I was born with diabetes. Right? Even people who develop diabetes, they might say, man, I shouldn't have drank the way I did. I was drinking, 4 cases of Coca-Cola a day. I was eating like it was the last meal at every single time I ate. This was not a healthy lifestyle. But no one around them is going to go, you're weak. It's just not how it's done. You feel sorry for those people. You know? You'd never blame somebody for a disease. Unless, of course, that disease is addiction. Then we'll call them weak. Right? We'll do all kinds of things. So I find myself very often indignant. Really. I get really torqued at people that don't get it. Why would they get it? Why would they get it? Is it their fault they don't get it? Because I got news for you. Zen, knock it off. Thank you, hon. But next week. Come on, Zen. Is it their fault? Truthfully. Thank you, Zen. I mean that. I'm not being mean. But your generosity. Don't get yourself into a pinch, okay? Please. You have to start wondering, is it the fault of the entire world that they don't get it? Is it? Is it the fault of every addict they've ever met? Right? Who stole from them and lied to them and did all of the things that make people want to hate us. Our disease has symptoms that are really difficult to get over. Not for the victim, but for the people that we victimize. Right? I stole from family. I lied to family. I stole from friends. I lied to friends. If I saw an angle, I took it. Whether that was a purse, everything to me meant a chance to get well, to not be sick. That's a disease. The normies of this planet, is it their fault they don't get it? Does it make a fart bit of difference if it's their fault? That's 5%. There's nothing we can do about the fact that unless you're a drug addict, you're not going to understand us. There's nothing we can do about that. There really isn't. You could try to educate them, but it's like trying to teach a fish to ride a bike, right? It's going to waste your time, and it's going to make the fish angry. You're not going to be able to make somebody understand the completely inexplicable. I mean, think about it. I get out of prison for bank robbery, right? I went in there. I had all of these different things that I went through. And now I'm in prison, and you got a chance to get out and start over. And I buy a bunch of guns so that I can make money to buy more dope. And when you're sitting in a jail cell, getting ready to go to prison again, waiting for that sentencing, there's not much on this planet that's going to make you feel like more of a loser. And that really incredible thing about the story, the most incredible part of the entire story is, as you're waiting and trying to figure out what the rest of your life is, because you sit in there and you do math. Paula, thank you, hon. You sit in there and you wait and you start doing math. Okay, I'm this old. If they give me this much time, I'll be this old when I get out. I'm probably not gonna, not gonna be starting a new life at the age of, you can start a new life at the age of anything. But you sit in there and you start to digest yourself. You know why? Because it's your fault. And that guilt begins to take you apart one brick at a time. If I didn't meet Q, there's no chance in hell I'd be here. I guess you could say it's his fault that there's a lifeboat. I prefer to think of it as the credit goes to. I have said on this show before, it takes a miracle for somebody to get sober. It really does. It takes a miracle. Now, if this is your first time on the lifeboat and you go, oh, beautiful, those miracles are a dime a dozen. They really are. They're a dime a dozen. But every one of them is a miracle. There's just no other way to describe it. I had a great conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were talking about the brain craving, or fearing, I guess is a better way to put it. We don't like change, right? As human beings, we don't like change. We like things structured. We like things a certain way. We like it so that it's something that we understand, right? Well, your brain is 10 times worse than that. Your brain does not want to make a change of any kind. Love a good ripple. I do too. I love a good ripple. Your brain doesn't want to change anything, not in any way, right? So we feed it a bottle of gin every day for 15 years. And then we say, well, we're not going to give that to you anymore. Your brain's going to wreak havoc on you. For real. Whose fault is that? Is it the 15 years of booze you drank? Is that the fault? Or was that predetermined by the time you had the 9th sip? It's a disease of choice. If you do not choose to ever drink that gin, you're never going to know that you were destined to be an alcoholic. Plain and simple. But make no mistake, you were an alcoholic before you had that first drink. And there are people that struggle with this concept. They really are. And you know what? Normally it's because we got to be able to put blame on somebody for this. right? We can't blame a disease. That'll let the addict off the hook. This dude robbed banks. You don't get a get out of jail free pass to just say it's a disease and now I got to forgive you. No, it's your fault. That's the normies. You know what that is, people? That's 5%. That's 5%. So the question becomes, what do you do with your 95%? Because you can control the hell out of that. I got news for you. There is $30 billion with a B. $30 billion laying around right now to help fight this opioid crisis. And I'm telling you, you want to hear something wildly arrogant? Give me that $30 billion and I'll fix this. There you go. You want some arrogance? I'm not kidding. Give me the $30 billion and I'll fix it. But that's not going to happen. Now, I can get indignant about that and it can change my attitude and I can start making ripples in the wrong direction in every single way we go. You can start affecting every single person you come in contact with. I got news for you. No matter how bad I tried, in the last 3 days, this thing caused me to be a jerk in a lot of people. There are a lot of people, including family, friends. This thing caused a lot of ripples. I think it's the watch's fault. That's the 5%. This is an inanimate object. How I reacted. Conky Donged, thank you. What percentage of this donation goes to the big red button? You know what? Honestly, I don't know that I've ever looked it up. Probably because I don't want to know. Honest. And there are a bunch of people who donate by going around them, right? They just go to the link and they donate money that way. I've never asked anybody to go that route. And the reason is some of the greatest messages I've ever seen have come when somebody put that up. There have been, in fact, the one that really jumps to mind, you know what, I'm not going to go down that because it will take me onto a whole new platform and I will squirrel in the direction that, here's the thing, people, there's nothing on this desk that resembles a note of any kind. I had notes because this show was going to have nothing to do with guilt. I mean, with fault. It was going to have nothing to do with fault. But I found myself trying to put blame in places, and it put my head in a really lousy place. And it caused me to create ripples in the wrong direction while I'm preaching, putting ripples in the right direction. You really got to guard yourself if you really want to get the most out of life. Forget sobriety, because I'm telling you, I'm not going to use. With all of this that went on, there was no danger of me using. I promise you there wasn't. But there was danger of me being a jerk. And I know Monk was kidding. But if he didn't say it, this video wouldn't be happening. Because I honestly looked at myself and went, good Lord. They suck. Oh, that's a great sentiment. Right? Good one. That's the 5%. I could have come on and said, you know what, people? We're struggling through this. Marf's been beautiful. You guys, there's a lot of Marf Hugel fans here. They're struggling right now. Right? They've got a lot of new equipment. And every time Dex talks, we get this great computer voice. But they're classy. Right? And they've been struggling with this for a hot minute. They've bought all kinds of different equipment. Right? That's a big organization. Those guys are doing it. They're doing it right. Now, maybe they're throwing things against the wall when the camera's not running. I don't know. But they're so classy through all of this that it impresses me to no end. And I want that. I do. I absolutely want that. I want the kind of peace that no matter what comes down the pike, I'm going to view it as that 5%. Alan Ballantyne, good to see you. I want to be able to view the entire world as that 9% and just take control. One moment. Wharton at a month. Wharton, I'm proud of you, bud. Seriously proud of you. That is good stuff, man. Wharton has made it 30 days, people. The 1 month mark's a big one, man. It is an absolute big one. Somebody just went around the big red button. I just gotta notice that flashed across the top of my computer screen. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's funny. I'm sorry. That's funny. People, let's run this down real quick. It's my fault. It's your fault. It's her fault. It's his fault. It's their fault. Right? All of that. So if it's my fault, I feel guilty. And that guilt, we know what guilt does. It starts taking you apart brick by brick. You're in deep, deep trouble. But if it's not my fault, then it's his fault. Now what? I'm angry. I'm indignant. I'm hating him. Any of those emotions sound good to you? Any of those emotions sound healthy for a drug addict or a recovering alcoholic? Do they? I promise you they're not. I promise you. When you see people genuinely at peace and they come out of situations that are so just, you go, how is this person not insane? Adam Walsh's dad. How are you not insane? I'm sure that, he is not a fan of that guy, the gentleman that did it. When he talks about how he moved on, that's the kind of forgiveness that you give it away. That's not the kind of forgiveness that says, hey, it's all right, I'm cool with it. But he took that 5% and changed the world, right? He said, my 95% is going to change this planet. He'll be dead generations, and the seeds that he planted, the ripples that he has caused will be felt for an eternity. The Center for Missing and Exploited Children, that's a worldwide thing now. It's in this country, but it is worldwide. Spellbreaker, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. People, if you were watching the last video, the one that got turned off, the youngest person that we have ever helped is the boat. I didn't get to share this story. But the youngest person that we ever helped is under the age of 18. And this individual is now on MAT. She's going to be going to a program for people her age. The lifeboat is probably not a great. She can listen to the stuff we talk about, and there's probably some great stuff that can be gleaned, and she could read some comments from people that are really gonna help. But she needs to be around peers, right? That's how these things work. So they're going to be getting her into some therapy for people that have been through what she's went through. But today she's not on the roulette wheel. Right? Today, there is no chance that Fent's going to take her off of the planet. And the members on this boat did that. And the people that donate, right? Your money did that. And first of all, it's astounding that the phone call was just to ask for advice, right? Because the crew member was not this girl. The crew member was this girl's mom. And it's just really great things are going on. And by the way, that's your fault. All that credit goes to you guys. It really does. Thank you so much for all you do for everyone. I thank you. I hope you take as much time, love, care, and attention to yourself as you give to everyone else. Thank you. That is a beautiful thing to say, honestly. And you know what? I'm working on that. Honestly, I'm working on that. Thank you so much. Another one just donated that you couldn't see. Thank you. I appreciate that. I couldn't see the name. It went so quickly, and that bums me out. But every one of these emotions, whether you're blaming somebody, you're blaming a corporation, you're blaming anybody, if it brings your blood pressure up. I have donated by PayPal, by the way, and if it weren't for the fact that they unceremoniously banned me after over a decade of no issues whatsoever, because I accidentally signed in one time with a VPN on. Well, that doesn't sound right. It really doesn't. I would say they're to blame. It's their fault. I'm kidding you. I'm not picking on you. I get frustrated by companies more than people. I mean that. I have a way of maybe it's because of my life and the way, and I think this is probably addicts in general, but I think we have a way of forgiving people because they have faces and they have names, and we can relate to that. I have a real struggle with nameless, faceless corporations. USPS is broken right now. I'm not going to argue that point. I'm not going to argue that point in the slightest. The United States Postal Service is broken right now. So am I. Their 5% was awful. If it's them, I don't know. Could have been the platform. At this point, honestly, I can't even figure out. And I'm losing the desire to care. Because my ability to blame somebody on this isn't going to help me a lick. Right? What difference does it make? It's not going to put the watch I sold back in my hand. It's not going to put the gold I sold back in my hand. It's not going to do any good. And these are things, people, that I'm 7 years into this and I'm working on it and I'm not very good at it. Right? I'm not here lecturing anybody. I'm bad at this. You hear me? I'm bad at this. But I'm going to double down on my effort to do better with my 95. Right? First of all, they stink for that VPN thing. I didn't, and I'm glad that you said that. I hope everybody heard it, because I didn't know. I honestly didn't have any idea that could get you banned from them. That would put me out of business, right? I do a lot with PayPal, and I don't mean the boat. I mean with my watch business. Wow, did you see this? They froze my funds in the account for 6 months before letting me sign in to withdrawal. That's terrifying. That's terrifying. And you know what? That's the kind of thing that could make somebody really angry. You know, really angry. And justifiably. I'm not saying that righteous indignation isn't legit, because it is. I mean, I got a right to be really angry. I do. I'm just dumb if I let that anger eat me. And maybe it wouldn't have been, maybe it's not, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't feel the same way about it if I looked like this, right? And this thing didn't say anything on it. But I got to feel like a pretty big damn hypocrite if I put this thing on and I act really nice while I'm here, and then I act like a raving lunatic when I'm not. The 95% has nothing to do with whose fault it is. The 95% doesn't care if it's his fault, her fault, their fault, your fault. This stuff happens to us from about the time we're that big. If there are parents on the boat and there's a bunch of you, do you remember right around the time that your kid first came up with the concept of it's not my fault? As human beings, it means something to us in a way that can't be explained. I looked it up, and tons of the e-sellers have had the same issue with PayPal. Just ignores them. Be extra cautious is all I'm saying. I appreciate that advice. Holy mackerel. Really. So it's the VPN that did it, right? You don't want to use a virtual private network when you log in. Is that what you mean? CJ Blaze. Good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Well, that's huge. I'm really glad that you're here. And I love that advice. I need that. I cried at Toy Story 3, I think. I don't remember Toy Story 3, but I think I cried at a couple of them. But I'm that guy. You know, I am absolutely that guy. Hold on one second, people. Yeah, you know, and part of what I do, you know, I spend a lot of time talking to people about expensive, hold on one second. I struggle with anger and guilt in my grief, but I'm learning so much about spirituality in the afterlife. Good. Meditate to the loud silence that drives everyone else crazy. You know, it's funny that was brought up. Rip, good to see you. The loud silence. I assume everybody here knows what she's talking about, right? Because that is something that is so unique to all of us, right? It's part of that uncomfortable in our own skin thing that I talk about all of the time. It's such a huge part of that. I say to people, and I think they look at me sometimes like I'm crazy. Like, you know, someone's leaving a room or doing whatever, and they'll go, "I'll turn that TV off." I'm like, please don't do that, right? I don't watch it. But I gotta have noise, because that really, really ridiculous, screaming silence. I think it's, I look at all the ones, right? So yeah, you get it. This is something that, and again, right? So is it the normies' fault that they don't get it? Is it their fault that that would not make any sense to them? Because try explaining that to somebody that isn't us. It doesn't make sense. Today I donated my watch, my phone, and $500 to a poor guy. You wouldn't believe the happiness I felt as he slid the pistol back into his pocket. 7th, there you are. 7th, I know Fia's been having a headache, but she needs to talk to you, so send her a text message. She's going to put you to work. That's actually a pretty good one. Miss V's got the, and some are still here. People, that silence can't be explained. And it's not their fault. Fault doesn't, it's irrelevant. But it isn't. You understand? There's no way to explain that to a non-addict. There isn't. I've had this conversation with so many people in my life where I talk about the loudest, silence in the world, and people don't seem to get this. The VPN is against their terms of service, which I didn't know at the time. Banned for suspicious activity. Couldn't get a human there. Yeah, well, that's the truth. And you know what, people? That's the big red button, too. That's one of my frustrations with the big red button, is that you can never get a human being on the phone. It happened to me once in the year and a half, and I almost had a heart attack. You know what I mean? Like, somebody called and said they were from the big red button, and I was like, sure. I really, honestly, I thought maybe I was getting messed with. Interestingly uncomfortable in your own skin. I started writing for a video along that line this morning, halfway done. Good, I'm looking forward to seeing it. That sound. So I'm talking to a new crew member on the boat. And I'm not going to put the new crew member on blast for a couple of reasons. This person may be doing something big later, and we'll talk about it. But the person used the phrase, that silence that's deafening. If I missed that, I'm not paraphrasing by much. And I knew instantly what this person was talking about, which is why the group thing is so essential, right? But try explaining this to normies. Try explaining this to people that don't have the disease that you have. Sometimes we feel like everybody understands certain things. And you'll say, I can't stand silence because of how loud it is, right? When I was on the inside, I went to a place called Lewisburg in Pennsylvania. And it was what was called an SMU, right? It's a special management unit. And for lack of a better way to put it, I'll send you a TV. Thank you. For lack of a better way to put it, it's time out for really bad people, right? So if you're already incarcerated and you do something stupid, and not run-of-the-mill stupid, but you do something really, really stupid, you threaten a staff member, you punch a cop, you do something really dumb, they send you to this special management unit. And it can be, like, at a minimum, you're going to be locked down for 24 to 30 months. And on the worst case scenario, it could be 4 years, right? I don't know any of you, but I know all of you. That is a beautiful, beautiful phrase, because it's the truth. And, so many other people have said that in one way or another. I've heard that so many times on the boat. I don't know anybody here, but I know everybody here. Or I may not know any of you people, but I understand every single one of you. Like that. And it's perfect. You really well said. So I end up in this place in Lewisburg, and you're locked down 24 hours a day. You don't leave the cell for any reason. So it's just you and another guy, and you're going to spend 19 months with that dude. So if you don't get along with him, it's kind of ugly. But they take you out 3 days a week. Lewisburg, all bad. They take you out. There's actually something called the Lewisburg Project, which is a bunch of attorneys. So if you Google it, you're going to get horror story after horror story. But it's the scariest place in the world. It has a freestanding wall. What that means is it doesn't attach to any buildings, right? So you feel like you're in a castle. It's got this, and it is the tallest, longest freestanding wall on the planet, right? That surrounds a building. So this thing is 40 plus feet tall. It's pink, and it goes around the entire complex and touches no building. So you have to get through the fence to even get to to any of the part of the facility. But because you're locked down 24 hours a day, you can't have a conversation with anybody but the person you're with. So what they do is they scream out the cell, right? And they just, hey, I'm going out to wreck, bring whatever. You hear? And or you heard, they end every single sentence with you heard or you hear, so that the person can say, yeah, no, I got you, or whatever. It never stops. It's around the clock. It's 24/7, just screaming. Because every person is sleeping on a different schedule and nobody cares about anybody else. So it's non-stop noise. And it's the top of their lungs, non-stop noise. And the incredible thing is, it doesn't bother anybody. But when it gets quiet, it's just deafening. And what was crazy was, so after this experience, and I was in the special management unit, this was the second sentence, I was in that unit until I left. So I left there and I met the person I was to marry, right? I mean, we had gotten married while I was incarcerated. We had never been together outside the system. And we spent the first night in Denver, Colorado. And that was the night that their quarterback, Manning, threw 7 touchdown passes or some outlandish number like that. It was an NFL record. The people were all in the street, leaning on horns, screaming, and we were downtown. And in the morning when I woke up, my wife at the time said to me, she goes, how in God's name did you sleep through that? I said, what are you talking about? She said, the noise last night, there was fireworks and people screaming in the street and car horns. Nothing. I slept like a stone. I don't do well trying to sleep with no noise. Now, if you try to explain that to normal people, air quotes, normal people that just have never been down the drug road, when it gets quiet, automatic negative thoughts start to tear you up. And this is a great piece of advice, by the way. It really is. They turn the silence up to full max. If you can handle it and embrace it, it's amazing eventually. I can't. And my brother says the same thing. I can't sleep in silence. I pretty much only have my smartphone to use, and I have unlimited data, so no internet. Okay, I turn on something at night before I go to sleep, and it's just background noise. And I have found these days that I'm more comfortable sleeping with a light on, which is pretty bizarre. But that's another thing that happened from being in there too long. You know what I mean? They didn't turn the light off. So you just sort of get used to it. And then when it's dark, I don't know. It's weird. I dream differently. But all of these things they're all part of the past it's a very difficult thing to, I fall asleep to Marfugal sometimes, make it to the jams. Marfugal jams is one of the great ways to fall asleep anyway. Sometimes, like when I say I put something on, sometimes I'll put on Marfugal jams and I fall asleep to Adam. The other one, honestly, that I love to fall asleep to is listening to Trinity. Trinity, hi-ho, Kermit the Frog. Trinity, red or blue pill. Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here. She narrates her videos, and she just has this voice that is one of the most soothing things. Fan on every night, won't sleep without it. You understand that we're different, right? We're all the same, but we're different from the outside world. We have to come to the understanding that it's not your fault you're different. It's not. It's not their fault they don't understand the fact that you're different. It gets really easy to start taking out our... I spent years sleeping on a couch in my early days. Well, yeah, I spent a lot of time on couches too. It becomes really easy to start lashing out at normies. It becomes really easy to start lashing out at anyone who we feel like isn't helping enough. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right, so like I was saying earlier before I squirreled off, because this is what I do. There's $30 billion out there that could be fixing this epidemic. It's somebody's fault that money isn't getting to where it's supposed to. The last time they funded it, that money's still there. So instead of working on it, they just threw more money at it. That's frustrating. And it makes me want to call Congress, my congressman, and scream at them. That's going to get nothing done. Calling them and articulately saying, I'm concerned about this, and I'm not going to vote for anybody that doesn't do something about it. That kind of thing is productive. Lashing out is probably not a great ripple. And it almost always, for me, for me, when I start lashing out, it's because somebody else is at fault. I start to really dig my heels in when there is somebody else at fault. I'm a lot better at coping with my problem than I am dealing with other people who I feel fall short. And you know what? I am forgiving as hell to the people on the lifeboat because we're a clan. Because you people understand that which is not understandable. I got to be that patient with normies. I got to be that patient with people that don't understand me and who I am. Because it's not their fault that they were born, right? They're blessed that they weren't born with this. Or they were born with it and were smart enough to never try drugs. Those people exist. And you know what? Living proof. I had somebody that emailed me and said, if you're an addict, you're going to find out when you're young. It's not like you're ever going to. And I sent them back an email, and I think he thought we were clashing, which is really not what was going on. But so I met a guy when I was in Arizona who tried methamphetamine at the age of 57. This guy he had worked in banks. He had worked all over, I'm not going to say the state, just in case sometimes this guy, someday this guy comes across this, but he was famous in the state that he lived in. He had basically worked at every really high-end bank anywhere in the entire facility. He had been a branch manager. He had sold mortgages. He had sold real estate. He was also really prominent in the church. And then he tried meth. And within 14 months, he had blown everything. And he started robbing banks. He was the only person I ever met in my life who smiled for his prison ID. Like, this guy ended up being a cellmate of mine. And when he first came in, he set his prison ID down and he started unpacking. And I looked down and he was like this. Just had the happiest look on his face. And they gave him only 30 months for bank robbery. Because he didn't use a weapon. He had 3 of them. But he never used a weapon. And he had no other criminal record whatsoever. And I think they were kind of blown away. But that was a guy that was a drug addict that had never tried a drug. And the second he did, he said to me, well, the thing is meth. I said to him, no, brother. By this point, I was sober and this was the direction I was going in my life. I said to him, it doesn't matter what you try. I promise you, the next one's going to get you the same way. I said, did you ever try drinking? He's like, no, I never tried it. I'm like, don't. His personality, everything about this guy was just, I said to him, the way you attacked banks, and I don't mean robbing them, I mean your business life, everything that you did. You rose through the church. Everything that you did, you overdid. That's a thing people talk about addictive personalities. There are people that say that they don't exist. Chris, we're blessed beyond measure to have you here. Good night, brother. Take care of yourself, please. And keep doing what you're doing, man. My girlfriend dumped me, so I stole her wheelchair. Guess who came crawling back? Jack actually told me that a few years ago. That's just vicious. That is just vicious. It really is. But good to have you here cracking jokes. Mike Leisure, full of hope. See, kindness. Good to see you all. You know what? I love the overlap between channels. I really do. There are so many of us that we see in all these different platforms, and I don't know, it really does, it starts feeling like a family. There's a reason that we all seek this out the way that we do, right? Because it's nice to be around, it's nice to go where somebody knows what's going on with you, right? Where you don't have to explain it. There are some things that no matter how much the person you're with loves you, no matter how much your family cares about you more than anything in the world, try to explain to them that when it's quiet, you go insane. That's not something the average person will understand because it doesn't make any sense. It's not their fault, right? No fault there. Now, let's go with the last of the fault for the night, right? What if they really are at fault, right? This came back in the mail. Right? So this was a screw up. What if it was stolen? Right? Now somebody really is at fault. And what they did was just wrong. So, right? Righteous indignation. The government isn't taking care of people with $30 billion. $30 billion. And they're not doing anything with it. It's sitting in accounts waiting for hustlers to put together programs so that they can pocket the money and not help addicts. That's the reality of it, because that's how it's been always going. This will go to, nudge, nudge, wink, wink buddies who start up, programs that don't do a thing. That's righteous indignation. They really are at fault, right? They did something wrong. It's their fault. It's still the 5. Are we going to allow it to make us become a ripple manufacturing machine in the wrong direction? Because if we do, that's really, really unhealthy. Right? It's super, super unhealthy. And I'm not lecturing you because I'm bad at this. Go back and watch some of the videos that I did talking about the opioid epidemic. I'm screaming. I could make such amazing changes and save so many with 30 billion. Rip, I said the same thing. Man, give me that money and watch how fast we fix this. And I believe you could. I'm not kidding you. I believe it. In fact, I don't think there were too many people on the lifeboat I couldn't pick and say, let him take the reins. Let her run this. Right? Let the 2 of them run this. Because we have an idea of how this stuff ends up in the hands of the people who get it. We have an idea of what it takes to actually help somebody out of this situation, right? We're not splitting atoms in a lot of ways in our lives, but holy hell, we got a PhD in addiction. How many addicts do you think they're talking to? Maybe that 5% that's making every one of us upset. The fact that there's $30 billion out there that no one's doing anything with to make this problem any better. Maybe the 95% is us. We're supposed to be fixing this. Maybe it's our job to try to make as much of a ripple as we can to do something about this. And I feel like with my background, I could build amazing centers nationwide. I believe that, Rip. And if you don't know what he's talking about, go back and watch the interviews I did with Rip, please, because he's got insight from every way you could look at this problem. Rip's been there. He has seen. You know what? I got 3 minutes left. I couldn't do any justice. Go back and watch the interviews, all of them that I did with Rip, because every one of them is gold anyway. They really are. They're all absolute gold. But it will give you a real good idea of why I say it's an absolute fact. I believe the guy could do it. I really do. He has seen it work well. He has seen it work awful, right? He's just seen every way that you could do it, right, wrong, and otherwise. I just got a notification. I just got a notification to tell me that they found this. It said your watch is in Ohio. How about that? It's in Ohio. Didn't see that coming, did you? All right, peeps. We're getting to that part of the top of the show, so to speak. But I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts. Let's not do the fault thing. It's up to you. It really is. And there are going to be times where people have it coming. There are going to be times where corporations have it coming. You know what? I understand the corporation thing. I really do. Because they're nameless and they're brainless. However, the only thing that we can do is the 95%. So my thing going forward, I swear to you, is going to be, if I complain about a problem, I'm not going to try to complain about it until I try to do something to fix it. The government's never going to give me $30 billion. No. It would be really nice if the government would give me $30 billion and let me try to, hey, there she is. Look at this. A little late to the party on her day. Supposed to be working today. It would be great if the government gave me any shot whatsoever at trying to fix this problem, because I honestly think I could make a dent. But they're not going to. So I'm left wondering, what can I do? You know what my answer is? I can put this thing on, and I can try to take the experiences that I have and do something with it. It gives me peace so that I'm not, chasing windmills, right? Old Don Quixote style. But from here on out, I'm not going to complain about a problem until I try to fix it. But that's me. I really do care about you people, and you've done wonders to make me a better person. And that's, I don't know that I can think of a better compliment, to say than you really have gone a long way to making me a better person. So I'm going to be back tomorrow night. It is going to be at the same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. What am I doing here? This thing's got to go. There we go. I will be back tomorrow, same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. I will be sitting right here. And I'm going to have this little fur ball with me. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. And let's not worry about that whole fault thing. It doesn't pay off. This is a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. I love you. Truthfully. Take it easy.